Hi guys, this is Jean from Happy Indulgence, and today I bring to you the top 5 most disappointing reads of 2018. The thing that makes me salty about books that I'm really excited about is mainly because the first book in the series, or it's a series sequel that I've been really looking forward to because I really enjoyed the previous books in the series. Another thing that also makes me salty is when a book is super overhyped and then when I pick it up I'm like, what the hell? Like, why is this hyped at all? So this video is going to have a lot of salt. Just a disclaimer, if you do enjoy these books, I'm probably going to talk about some of your favorites, and I don't take it personally that people don't like books that I like, so I don't think you should take it personally as well. So this is just my personal opinion, and you're welcome to like whatever books that you like. Alright, so let's just get started. So the first book that made me salty was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. Yes guys, this book I found so disappointing. It took me about 3 weeks to read, and oh my gosh, I just found it long, draggy, slow and boring. I actually wrote 1,500 words on my blog about why this book made me salty, and I'll be filming a review soon going into all the different points about why I was so disappointed. I mean, this is a series that has dragged on for 7 books, and you would think that there would be some improvements in this one, especially for a book at almost 1,000 pages. Some things were just disappointing. This is mainly a romance, it's not a fantasy. Sarah J. Maas doesn't take risks as an author, which is really frustrating as a reader because you can kind of predict how things are going to go. It was just really cheesy at times because there's so many declarations of love and there's all the romance and everything, and there's also endless battles that keep on going for no particular reason. So as I was reading, I'm like, guys, why should I care? And I actually ended up skimming a lot of repetitive scenes to do with Aiden and Lysandra when they're in battle, and a lot of repetitive scenes with the torture as well. In fact, it's not until page 300 when the torture finishes, and oh my gosh, it's just repetitive, and I will go into it a bit more in my review once I put it up. If I had known that this was going to be a super white fantasy without much diversity, it's going to be mainly about mating bonds and about relationships, rather than an exciting action-paced series about assassins and fae, I probably wouldn't have picked it up 7 books ago, but I've already invested that time, and that's where all the salt comes from, and that's why I'm so disappointed in this one. Next book I was super disappointed in was What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. So I've actually recently just read this a few months ago, which I have reviewed in my wrap-up, but the reason why I was disappointed in this one is because it's just a messy clash of writing styles, and it's also messy when it comes to the 2 characters in here. And I even found some problematic elements which I was super surprised about, because normally both authors are pretty good when it comes to the diversity representation. So you've got Arthur and Ben who have a meet cute in New York. One of them obsesses over the other one, so much so that he stalks him on social media and even at his workplace. Like, how disturbing is that? So the whole relationship is centered upon social media stalking. If that isn't creepy enough, one of them has a best friend called Dylan, and the Dylan is a straight guy who constantly makes gay jokes towards his gay best friend. I mean, does anyone see anything wrong with that? Even though you can take it as a joke, there were a few scenes where it could have been counted as flirting, and I just found like boundaries, guys. This best friend has a problem with boundaries because he flirts with girls and pretends like they're his future wife. He actually says, hey, you're my future wife in his first date, or when they're not even dating yet. And one of these girls actually sets a boundary with him and said, hey, my ex was super possessive, so maybe not call me your future wife because I find it super creepy. Anyway, the guy agrees, and then later on in the book it happens again, and apparently they laugh it off. So obviously there's problems with boundaries in here. I just found one of the characters, I can't remember the names, but one of the characters was super dramatic, pining over his ex, but then he gets jealous and possessive when the other guy looks up an Instagram account of his ex. So obviously both characters are super flawed, and it was just a messy mess of writing styles because Becky Albertalli writes super cute characters with great dialogue. It's a really feel-good sort of story, whereas Adam Silvera writes a bit of a sci-fi twist into his books, but they're obviously a bit more in-depth and a bit moodier. So the combination of both characters I didn't really find mesh well, and yeah, that's why I found this book disappointing, guys. Next book is none other than Furyborn by Claire Legrand, and this is obviously an ARC, which is why you don't see the pretty cover, but this was also one of our Name of the Book Club reads, which we really enjoyed talking about and ranting about. So Furyborn was an interesting read because it was so hyped throughout the whole year. So many people were like, oh my god, you have to read Furyborn, and I was on board, especially when I heard that it was about two different queens from two different eras. So they're separated by 1,000 years. But surprisingly, in this 1,000 years, the dialogue's exactly the same, the characters behave the same, they have the same societal constraints, and you wouldn't be able to even tell the difference between their voices aside from the people around them. The thing about Furyborn is that the start of the book spoils the entire plot of the entire book, because there's a prologue with Raelle, and she's basically getting kidnapped. It's super dramatic. And then it skips 1,000 years into the future where you hear about another character called Eliana. But basically, Eliana's perspective spoils what's going to happen in Raelle's perspective. So while reading this book, it basically gives away all the plot devices while you're reading it. So by the end, it's like, oh my god, that was so predictable, I didn't see it coming. Oh my gosh, a book that spoils itself over and over again isn't very enjoyable for me. So obviously, this was really disappointing, especially after hearing so much about it. Another book that made me salty was Escaping from Houdini by Kerry Maniscalco, and in my previous top 5 favorites video, I actually talked about how I love stalking Jack the Ripper and hunting Prince Dracula, but this book, oh my gosh, it was just full of disappointment, and there's one key reason for that. Basically, I have shipped the entire couple throughout the series. Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell are one of the best parts of this series because of the supportive relationship that they offer each other. There's not so much of that in this one. In fact, there's a new love interest that is introduced, and there's a love triangle. Oh my gosh, guys, it was just a disaster. Why would you introduce a love triangle in the 3rd book in the series? It was so frustrating because there wasn't as much dialogue between Thomas and Audrey, and in fact, she was breaking his heart. And well, she plays around with this guy called Mephistopheles or something. The whole reasoning behind it was shaky, why she was getting close to him just to find out his secrets behind the murders. Oh, like, I just can't get my head around why you would suddenly introduce another love interest in the middle of a series. It's just the most frustrating thing because, oh my gosh, you've basically ruined the whole chemistry and everything that I liked about the series to begin with, and it just felt so forced. I didn't enjoy it at all because of the way Audrey Rose kept them going back and forth, going, do I actually like this new guy better than the old guy? And it was just full of frustration. Last book that made me disappointed this year was The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. And if you checked out my top 5 unexpected favorites video, Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which was the first book in the series, was actually one of my favorites of the year. So obviously when this came out recently, I had to pick it up straight away because I love the first book so much, and I really liked Felicity in the first book, who is Monty's sister, and she's really headstrong. Felicity has so many problematic attitudes in her head. Basically, she's not like other girls because she's strong and she doesn't like pretty dresses, yet she resigns her old best friend to the fate that she's a weak girl just because she likes partying and pretty dresses. So she has a lot to learn about this one. There's also a new character introduced called Simone. She's a POC character who's also a bit piratey. She's cast as a really dodgy character, which is problematic in the first place because she's a POC character and she's untrustworthy, but Felicity goes along with it, and all these things happened in the book that made me realize just how cast out as a POC character that she was. So that wasn't right either. And the fact that I found Felicity's perspective to be preachy, I mean, there's a fine line between someone being headstrong and highly opinionated to someone being dismissive of other people's feelings and opinions and never learning. And I felt like she broached that fine line, and she was just a really annoying character to get to know. And just the fact that the whole book just goes along with these two girls, along with their adventures, completely ignoring the POC character who was actually interesting and achieving something with her life. I found the characters here to be problematic. I ended up giving this 3 stars, but I think I was being generous, guys. So that was my top 5 most disappointing books of 2018. If they were your favorites, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, let me know if you agree with me in the comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.